You are watching Leicester Till I Die TV.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
To play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Hello, welcome along, my championship chums. How are we feeling the morning after the night before? Good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon, good day, goodbye. Hello, welcome along. This is LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die, live on Facebook, Twitter, and of course YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to get in with your memories as we go through the 9 Premier League seasons that we've just had. And hopefully we'll bring back in some happy memories because it was a great 9 years. Look at what we achieved in 9 years and look at what Spurs achieved in 9 years. I mean, Spurs, they've achieved that much that you'd almost want Ryan Mason to be your manager, wouldn't you, Dave? Welcome along. If you're listening to this on the podcast, whether that is via YouTube or via Spotify, Apple iTunes, or Google, Podcast Addict, all of them, thank you for lending me your ears. And if you've got a smart speaker, just ask it to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die and listen to us wherever you are. And if you want to follow us on our socials, there we go. On all of them, you can find us on either LTID TV or Leicester Till I Die TV, whichever search them both and it should bring me up on that. And if you are feeling really, really generous, and a lot of you have recently, so thank you very much to all our new subscribers. Smash a like on the video, that does help. It does get the video onto other people's home pages. And also subscribe to the channel. We are not that far now off the 2K, so thank you very much to everybody that has done that. And look, if you are, I'll come to that in a second because I wasn't quite ready for that. What I will say is a thank you to everybody on this list. John Thornton, Told You Bro, Ash Patini, Sharky, Marcus Sports, or Sports as I've got there, but it is Sports, Judy Bowers, Dugout Football Channel, Nate, Kate, Matthew M. Burke, David Smith, who will be joining us in a second, and LCFC Grey Forever a Fox, are all members of the channel and will be able to take part in the member-only shows that we're going to be doing next season. So thank you to each and every one of you. It's only $1.99 a month. You say you can join in with the special shows next season, discounts, emojis, all sorts. Click on the button below in the YouTube description and you will find all the details. But we are going to be looking at the last 9 seasons that we spent in the Premier League. 2014 to 2023, some good times. George is in. Great show last night. Thank you very much, Georgie. Hope you are well. Mr. Green is in. Love your betting site, mate. Smash the likes. I'm here to stay as a mod no matter what league. Well, we could be playing each other next season if Newport can get up and we get relegated. And Nate is in, one of our members there. Thank you very much, Nate. How is America this afternoon? I want to say, first of all, if you will allow me, I want to say a very, very warm welcome to, and let me just get this up on the screen. You'd think I'd be more organised than this, but look, it's not any fun being organised, is it? But I want to say hello to friends old and new from the clubs that we are now going to be playing next season. Blackburn, obviously, we had chats with Norwich. could never find a fan from Norwich to chat to be honest with you. But Leeds and Southampton are going to be like old friends, as are Watford. Not seen you for a while. It would seem strange not having you in there this year. And I say Norwich as well, if we can find somebody. But going to be great. You are all welcome in the chat. You are all welcome in the groups. All we say is please, obviously, show respect. You are in another group. We're here for fun and banter, and that's where it stays. Unlike Nottingham, of course, because their fans don't know what banter is. Yes, you, Mr. Dorr, who apparently doesn't rate Leicester at all, but has been all over every Leicester channel posting on Twitter. But I don't like the guy. He doesn't do anything for me, and I think I've upset one or two Nottingham Forest fans by saying that. He probably doesn't like me. You know what? I ain't going to lose any sleep over it, but my God, as it have I wound, it's like poking a hornet's nest, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Let us bring this gentleman in because, well, hopefully he's gone, sat in a corner, whipped himself on his back and said, I must not say Ryan Mason ever again on this channel. Dave, good evening.
Scotty Parker.
Oh, goodbye. Brad, good evening.
Good evening, Chris. You did the right move there into swearing at us that early in the show. It's not even 9 o'clock and he's already swearing at us.
No. Oh, let's bring the old man back. Here he is.
Hello, boys.
Oh, that used to be a bra advert.
It probably. Oh, yeah.
Hello, boys.
Well, you could say he's a bit of a tit, couldn't you?
Well, you got a few titters there.
I did. He did.
Hey. Personally, I think you boobed, but there we go.
You're going to get Mr. Door in. Door on the door.
I'd be honest with you, I just find him very condescending, and you know,
Can you be condescending when you come from Nottingham?
Well, he tries to be.
Did you ever go to that goose fair? Oh, horrendous.
I'm not going anywhere near that joke. I'm keeping away.
Certainly not.
Mike says, Harry, indeed.
Hello,
he
Mike.
said it before me. I didn't. That doesn't count because I was just repeating what he said. Anyway, James is in. Good evening, James. How are you? As he said, press the likes and subscribe. And it started already. Yes, it has. Tell you what, it'd be nice to see some decent away fans like Coventry fans rather than, the trees, won't it?
Well, they only pay half price, don't they?
Let me ask you. Let me come to you first, Brad. Who do you see as our like rival, if you like, for a derby? If you had to play a derby game, who do you? Is it Forest? Is it Derby? Is it Coventry? Or if taking the Nippon thing, of course, you could have it as Aldershot.
Well, yeah, I could go anywhere around, couldn't I? I mean, even though they survived, they're still irrelevant in my head. It's so cute how desperate they are to be trying to one up Leicester fans like they've won something relevant in like 400 years. Bless the little cotton socks. So for me, I know I say it tongue in cheek, but when a motorway gets named as the Derby, you're massive as a derby. So the M69 Derby is between Leicester and Coventry. And at least in Derby and Coventry, they have the right amount of fingers and thumbs, not in the incest town of Nottingham.
Ooh, Dave,
and that's not allegedly. I saw them counting. It's why they can't do maths.
That's why the women are always happy. Dave,
I don't know about being happy. You see, well, for me, it's always Coventry. It's the big derby because I come from Nuneaton, so. It's nearer to Coventry than Leicester.
Is your sort of main derby rivalry not against the team that you're nearest to geographically?
Normally, yeah. I don't know how that all started. I can't remember that being a thing 30, 40 years ago. Forest were good then, weren't they? Ish.
Well, I don't know. My memory doesn't go that far back. Same. How did the Derby thing start, Brad? I mean, obviously we had the Wembley with the silence of the Rams.
Fuck's sake, this fucking button doesn't work. Honestly, I think it's literally just like how this imaginary rivalry with Villa, Wolves, and Birmingham started. They're in the Midlands, so they must hate each other. But you know, if it is a bit of a strange one, I suppose we kind of had them. We kind of just had them as rivals for the lols in the 90s, didn't we? Because we always beat them. Beat them in the playoff final, beat them in the league. I mean, bloody hell, when Captain Fantastic signed for them, aka Robbie Savage, and he got asked why Derby, he said because he felt sorry for battering them every time he played them with Leicester and Blackburn. That tells you all you need to know about how good Derby are. So,
what was the song?
We've just been stretched for rivalries. Right, the Midlands has always been blue, so you know you got. Had to make us rivals somewhere, I guess.
I think the Ewan Roberts one, it scores with his head, scores with his left, scores with his right, and if you play in Derby County, he scores all fucking night. Or something along those lines. Look, this is the Premier League years, but let's go back 10 seasons. We were in the Championship. We had just come out of a season where Knockaert did his best to get us a penalty and get us into a Wembley playoff final. Wasn't to be. I don't think it was a penalty, if I'm really honest this time. But Deeney, and it hurts me the way that we lost rather than the fact that we did lose. But we just broke every single record, I think, going that season. I mean, we only got through to the third round of the FA Cup and fifth round of the League Cup, whatever it was called there. But we just smashed it. We were first. We had more away. Here we go. In a single season, 102 points we got that year. Most league wins in a season, 31. Most league home wins in a single season, 17. The most consecutive league wins, 9. The most consecutive away league wins, 5. The longest unbeaten run away from home in the league, 13. And the most consecutive league games scored in, 31. I mean, wow. You know what I mean? What a season that was. And of course, you know, I think it was almost Dave good. Say good, but the fact that we lost in the way we did, we just came back and smashed it, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I think was that the year QPR came up with us that year, and somebody like that, and Harry Redknapp was in charge because I remember them coming to Leicester, and he really fancied it. He thought we would blow out, and QPR would win the league, and it was never going to happen.
QPR actually came up via the playoffs.
Oh, did they? Okay, so
yeah, it was QPR and Burnley that were the only two teams that were staying with us at that point, and then we beat QPR at Loftus Road. And then I think we beat Burnley a few weeks later, and they just dropped off the face of the earth.
On my birthday, on my birthday, in the executive boxes, it was an executive room, sat outside, only me cheering when Chris Wood scored that amazing goal, probably the best goal he ever scored for us, and it was like everybody was looking at me. I'm like, we came up with Derby were third. Funnily enough, that season, Brad, our lowest home attendance, can you guess who it was against?
Oh,
I'll tell you.
I mean, you're probably going to surprise me, but I would say I don't even know if they were in the Championship that season.
Oh, in that case, you're wrong because I've already mentioned them. Derby.
I didn't know. I would not have thought it was Derby. I thought they'd have been decent.
A League Cup game in the September of 2013. But we came up and we were Premier League again. We are Premier League. And what we're going to do, like I say, in this show is look back at the 9 seasons that we have had in the Premier League. And before we get onto the individual seasons, Dave, I mean, what we've achieved in those 9 years, clubs like Spurs can only dream of.
Yeah. I've been doing it a bit today with some Tottenham mates, and they're getting right upset. They can't handle it, can they? They really can't handle it.
No.
Not only haven't they got a manager, but they've lost the best manager they've had for a long time to Chelsea. And they've
They've
had
got Ryan Mason though, mate.
Well, I think he's a candidate for the job. I still do. Him and Scotty Parker and maybe Stevie G, but who knows? So they're in a mess. Spurs. Harry Kane's going to go. He's not going to stay another season, is he? Unless he's really stupid. It's just not going to happen. The only thing they've got is probably one of the best grounds in the league.
Yeah.
But apart from that, they've got nothing.
Brad, it's like you say, those 9 years, it's memories that I never thought I would have with father and son. We mentioned it last night, some of those, but it has been a roller coaster ride. And I don't always agree with what Gary Lineker says, but as he said on Match of the Day, who would have thought? And if you'd have told me that we're going to win the Premier League, an FA Cup, an English Super Cup, quarterfinals of the Champions League, he would have laughed at you.
Well, yeah, because if it literally didn't happen, there's no way you could have convinced anybody otherwise that it was going to happen. You wouldn't have convinced anybody. You could have brought all the proof in the world, and you'd have been thrown in a nut house until it happened. It didn't seem fathomable, did it? I mean, even if you took the Premier League win out of it, the actual idea that Leicester were going to do good enough to qualify for European football, let alone Champions League football. And then, the most embarrassing statement in all of English football was by a certain Frenchman, which is irony with the French and their war surrendering capabilities, that he said Leicester would be the biggest embarrassment to European football and would probably come bottom of their group with 0 points. And that worked out for your arson.
Yeah. Something about North London, isn't there?
Yeah, bitter. There's too many lemons and stuff like that in there.
Let's have a look at our first season up there. And 3 highlights I've just put there. Leicester City 5, Manchester United 3. We'll come on to that in a second. Ostrich Gate, who can forget that? And, of course, finishing with The Great Escape. I had ostrich burgers the other day just to remind myself of that season. I think we're keeping Brad awake here.
Nice.
And of course, you got the strips there. Just as a precursor to that season, we tied a lot of players down. Matty James signed a 4-year contract extension. That didn't go so well, did it? Whereas Morgan signs a 3-year extension. Nugent signs a 2-year extension. Liam Moore a 3-year, and Jeff Schlupp signs a 3-year extension. Ali Cisse signs a 1-year contract extension. I've no idea. Do not ask me who that is. But we made some signings that were probably going to change our history, Dave. Mark Albrighton.
Yeah, it was that Vardy's first goal against Man United.
I don't know, but we'll come on to that in a minute. Yeah. You're jumping ahead again already, aren't you?
Well, I thought as you mentioned Man United, I thought,
you tell you're right about saying he's a politician because you said words Mark Albrighton and he went, Vardy's first goals against Man United.
Yeah. Are you watching a different show when you're on this, Dave? Right. Dave, some of the signings we made pre-season include
Brighton was good.
Brighton.
Michael Brighton was a good signing, wasn't he? For nothing.
Free, of course, as well.
Because he couldn't get in the first team at Villa, so
no.
I got him for nothing. That was a cracker, that was, wasn't it? We could have done with him this year, but I don't want to move on to that. Yeah. We made some good signings, and I think with the players we'd had, it was a shame about Matt. What's his name? Oh, jeez. Matt
Upson?
No, don't worry.
Matty James,
yeah.
Oh, Matty James, yeah.
Because him with Drinkwater in midfield were pretty good.
I always thought that Matty James was the better of the two. And I think he got injured.
That was a lot of Leicester fans' adaptation because when Drinkwater did what some future players did. We'll talk about them later, obviously, as you asked. Yeah. But when they jumped to the grass is so much greener, but it turns out to be dead grass, Chelsea, Everybody was like, "Oh, I can't believe you've sold him. What are you going to do?" It's like, well, obviously, unfortunately, he was made of weaker stuff than paper in the rain. Matty James, when he had after that injury he had.
He did
But
him,
that championship season, them two were telepathic, and Matty James was actually pushing Drinkwater out that side. If it wasn't for the injury, a lot of Leicester fans were under the impression that Matty James was a better player than Drinkwater anyway.
Yeah.
And Nigel Pearson went to the players and said, who, certainly the defenders and the goalkeeper, who is the striker that's given you the most hassle this season? And it was they all came back with one name apparently, Leo Ujoa, and we went and bought him for 8 million from Brighton. And again, I was sorry to see him go, Brad.
Yeah, I was, because Leicester haven't been too well known for having that target man up front, have they? I mean, I know O'Neill makeshifted them out of Elliott and Walsh, but we've never really been that sort of club that goes, you know what we need? We need someone who's tall, not the quickest of strikers, but he can stand in their box, cause chaos, and he can get his head on them. And boy, especially in that first 8-10 games, you couldn't stop him scoring, could you? And then of course near the back end of it, when Vardy had that suspension. But yeah, he was quite key in probably the keyest moments of Leicester's survival parts of the season. To be honest with you,
Dave, I still can't believe that we got this guy on a free. Esteban Cambiasso.
Yeah, that was bizarre, wasn't it?
What a signing! I mean, all right, we saw him at the twilight of his career when he had no hair, but it was an amazing signing. It's just a shame we didn't stay for the second year. Well, looking back on it, you may regret it, but
he would. Yeah,
I think he was. I think just again, not necessarily all because he didn't always play the full 90 minutes, but have him in the dressing room.
Yeah, I think he probably does regret leaving. Going back to Joe, I saw him score 2 against us, I think, for Brighton the year before. So I wasn't surprised when we signed him. But Cambiasso, I mean, bloody hell.
Cambiasso, he was
first year in the Premier League.
He was actually being chased by Leicester, and the fact that we kept in touch with him apparently was what encouraged him to come here. That we were keeping the channels open. But from one extreme to the other, Brad, Tom Lawrence, £1 million from Manchester United.
Yeah, and if I remember rightly, we also got Nick Powell on loan, and the Man United fans were fuming. They wanted it to be the up way round, and well, I don't know which one was worse. I suppose at least the fact that we cut Nick Powell's loan short and could send him packing back home was a blessing, because neither of them have been great since. In fact, I know Tom Lawrence went to Derby. I think he did. He's been at Derby for a while, but both have been hopeless since that move. So we got lucky. It's safe to say that we compensated for the £1 million we got and spent on a Premier League record holding legend at the club. So for every good £1 million you spend, there has to be a bad one, I guess. So yes.
And Dave, loans, probably to my mind, one of the best loans that as a club we've ever made in my memory, and that was during the January transfer window. I think it was towards the end of it. We brought in a certain Mr. Huth from Stoke City.
Yeah, and that was surprising as well. I think probably the fact that Nigel Pearson was a central defender helped. I don't think many managers would have signed him, but he was a godsend, wasn't he? Absolute. He controlled that back four.
He did. I mean, we'd obviously, we'll come on to the sort of the season and the games in a second, but do you think, Brad, that he made the difference, didn't he, when he came in?
I mean, yeah, he did. I mean, you needed an assurance at the back. I mean, we forget that Wes Morgan wasn't the wise owl that he became over the few years. You know, you needed that Premier League experience, and yes, we have the quality and dynamic, and everybody will always talk more about Cambiasso than any other player. That reason, for obvious reasons. Let's face it, we're not. It's no trade secret that he wasn't a catalyst in that dressing room. Whether he was always, whether he always rubbed players the wrong way or not is a different story. They respected him enough to kind of let it go and kind of take it on the chin because, well, it was Cambiasso, you know what I mean? It wasn't like Tom Lawrence was trying to be that and they were thinking, who the fuck are you? But as we've seen this season, without a certain voice being our back line, you maybe need that installed into him. And whether you think he technically got one on default or not, we had a Premier League winner in our defence. Because obviously he was at Chelsea when they won it, and he'd been around. And yeah, I think he was just as, if not, controversial here. I'm going to say it. I think he was more important to us than Cambiasso, purely for what he brought to that defence. Because we were a leaky cauldron before he came in my opinion.
Okay, so looking at the players that have gone out on loan that season, Paul Gallagher went out to Preston North End, one of the first of many loans to them. We let Conrad Logan go. Do you remember him to Rochdale? Let's have a look. Gary Taylor Fletcher. We went out on loan to Sheffield Wednesday. That was one of our weird signings. Tom Lawrence went out on loan to Rotherham, not having long joys. Jack Barmby went to Rotherham as well. And then there's a few that went out towards the end of the season that, due to a certain incident in Thailand, including James Pearson, Nigel Sun. But Chris Wood went to Ipswich, Liam Moore went to Brentford. But look, let's get into the season itself. And it wasn't a bad start, really. I mean, we got a draw with Everton at home. Dave, we lost to Chelsea away, which you'd look back and you go, of course we did. We managed to draw 1-1 with Arsenal. We beat Stoke City 1-0. And then Louis van Gaals, you've got to say that, Gaals, Manchester United rolled into town and rolled back out again with the tails between the legs.
Yeah, it was
what do you
excellent.
remember of that game?
I remember Vardy being very cute in the box. And I remember him terrorising a young was he right back who got sent off in the end? One of them.
Tyler Blackett, yeah.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah. And Vardy was just awesome. I mean, he was putting it about. He was all the things we wanted him to be this year. And even when we had the bad year, when Ranieri went, I'm not jumping, I'm just talking about Vardy. You need him to be nasty. And the older he's got, he seems to have lost that nastiness. But that game and that season, he had it big time. And it was brilliant to watch.
Were you there, Brad?
Yeah, I was there. In fact, I was working the match that game, and boy, was that one hell of a game. I mean, unfortunately, it was probably one of the few games that I wasn't working on the inside for all of it. So I had a little earphone in my ear, listening to it on Radio Leicester, and obviously the crowd are a half a second ahead, but I was so engrossed in listening to this game. And I remember it went 1-0, and I thought, oh, here we go. And then it went 2, and then Vardy, within a split second, I think it went 2-0, and then we went straight down the other end, and Joa headed it to 2-1. And I just finished picking my headset up from throwing it on the floor, and it stopped, going, oh, game on again. And then, so obviously, and what happened in that last 15 minutes was absolutely surreal. I mean, we've seen some capitulations, and we've joked a lot of them have come from Spurs, but that was the biggest capitulation I think Manchester United have witnessed in a long time.
In my mind, it was one of Mark Clattenburg's best games as referee.
Yeah.
In his only good game as referee, if you want to go on it.
There, and I remember sat with my son. I got a season ticket that year, and I remember just before the quarter of an hour mark, looking at my son and going, "It's still 0-0." And Van Persie came up at the far post and headed it in. I still say it got a deflection, and that's what beat Casper. And then
it did off Liam Moore.
Yeah, Di Maria, what an amazing chip that was. You've got to hand it. And then Ujoa, cross from Vardy, was it out? Who cares? It was given. We must have had a Russian linesman that day, and then it just went. We had five efforts on goal, and 5 of them went in. And I can remember, I think it was the 5th goal. It might have been the 4th. And I jumped up, got knocked over, and I was just about to land into a lady's lap that was sat next to me, and my son saved me from what could have been a very costly court case. It was definitely one of those I was there, and I was there with my son moments. But
I thought at the time, this is it. If we can do this, we're going to finish in the top half at least. Because that's all we wanted in those days, wasn't it? 40 points,
and
top
the thing
half.
Is, from that game, following on very well from what you've just said, 21st of September 2014, we never won a game until the 28th of December.
No.
2014.
12 or 13 on the bounce we lost, didn't we?
No, we had a couple of draws. We I
thought we lost a load of games.
We did. Well, in that time, we only drew 2.
Yeah.
So from that game, which was September, to the 28th of December, we got 2 points, and we were bottom. And we were bottom at Christmas, Brad.
Yeah.
We had no idea what was going to come then, did we? I can remember walking into work, and every time just behind the door was the Man United fan. That's where he sat. And every time I walked in, he was taking the piss, because I'd taken the piss out of him over the 5-3. But it was a horrendous run, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And the thing is, I'm still not sure what happens. And I know we always have these discussions, and I know we'll get to one, straight after this season, funny enough. But there's always a game that you kind of go, where did it go right / where did it go wrong? And you like to have that. It's what I call a defining game. And for me, I'm not sure why it was such a defining game, because I'm not sure why going from beating Manchester United 5-3 to the result I'm about to talk about suddenly seemed to hit a panic button within the squad and Nigel Pearson. And that was the 1-1 draw against Burnley. It was a 96th minute free kick. I remember it well because I was stood there and I was thinking, they're scoring this. They've done sod all and they're going to score. And they hit the back of the net and they ran off with a draw. And it just set off a wave of panic within the...
It was a 2-2 draw against Burnley.
Oh, sorry, it might have been 2-2 then, not 1-1.
That was 2 weeks after the Man United game.
Yeah, sorry, I got the result wrong in my head. I knew it was a draw. Yeah, because they went ahead, then we went 2-1, and you just reminded me, thank you. But yeah, we conceded the equaliser in the 96th minute to make it 2-2. And ever since that game, like you said, from that point on, right up until December, mass panic. Couldn't tell you what team was going to turn up for the next game because he changed it. I don't know why, but that game defined that period.
The previous season, when we had done so well, you could have predicted what team Nigel Pearson was putting out, that, say, championship winning season. You could have said 6 weeks' time. Don't bother putting it up. We know what team he's going to put out because he was. But here, you just had no idea. He changed it week. Oh, Brad's gone. You change it week to week. I'll come to you then, Dave. You change it week to week, and you had no idea. And Cranwich would say, "Come on, have a good game," and then he wouldn't play. Somebody would score a goal. We wouldn't see him for 2 weeks.
It was interesting, wasn't it? Because I quite rated Cranwich. I thought he did all right for Leicester,
but we just could not.
It couldn't get a regular place.
Was coming out, could we?
But if I remember, I mean, we weren't hammered by teams. We were losing by the odd goal, I think. And I think our goal difference was better than most. But we just couldn't get over the line. And Brad's right, these defining games, and I know that I think I know the game that changed it all back. I could be wrong because it's a long time ago, but we didn't lose by that many. I don't remember us being beaten.
We never got tanked, and
no.
I've said it a lot this season, and Brad will back me up on this, that we fought every game.
I didn't think
Tottenham, but it was 4-3.
I never came away from the ground thinking, what a bunch of losers, and nobody's putting the effort in. And things didn't go right, I know, but we were new to it, don't forget. It's not easy your first season.
Yeah. And I remember I had to drive down from Leicester like you probably did. I drove all the way to Poole, and not once did I think, I was disappointed, but it was a case of, they're making the effort, and it was always a 2-1 or a 1-0 or a 4-3.
Yeah. Well, I was in Leatherhead then, and I remember some of the times coming back on a Tuesday, I think, what the hell am I doing? Pissing down a rain. We were useless.
Exactly.
There was only about 22,000 people there. What am I doing?
After 7 games, after 5 games, Brad, we were 7th. After 13 games, we were 20th. And we didn't change that until the 33rd game, which, funnily enough, was against Burnley. We beat them 1-0. But I think the game, Brad, that Dave was referring to was the West Ham game. And I've referred to that with who we've just played. Beating them 2-1, Cambiasso and King getting the winner.
And then we followed that by West Brom, didn't we? Is that right?
No, Swansea.
Yes, yeah.
Oh yeah, so West Brom way first, and Swansea back at home, wasn't it? I think that was where it kick-started, but I think the first major sign of it was a complete fluke. And it completely just. I think we spent about 3 or 4 weeks, and we played the likes of Arsenal and Spurs, like you said, and whatnot, and we weren't getting beat badly, and we had opposition players, in their interviews going, there's surely no way they'll finish bottom the way they're playing. They in a lot of games, I remember the commentators saying, Leicester deserved that goal. They deserve to be back into it. They've played really well. And that was the one thing that kept us positive, because at the end of the day, had Leicester gone down that season, we weren't expecting much. We were hoping for a 16th, 17th finish. And if we went down, well, we were expected to, But for me, it was completely stumbled upon by fluke, but it helped us nail down our formation, or at least staying as a 4 and a back. And that was when we beat Hull away from home and kept a clean sheet. Mahrez scored. It was our first win, like Chris said. He broke that chain of 13 games without a win. And it kind of just seemed to happen. It wasn't a tactical genius. It wasn't suddenly playing loads at the back.
I've just said, we're going to have to move on, because we've got 9 seasons to get through here, and at this rate, we'll be here till 3 o'clock in the morning. So if we can keep...
Oh, okay, I was just making a point for when it changed, but...
Okay. But we, as I say, we've got 9 seasons to get through. I'll stick with you for this one, though, Brad. Ostrich Gate. Talk to me about Ostrich Gate.
It was a bit daft, really, that guy who commented it. Leicester in the run. Leicester on the run of their lives, and then they go and suffer 1 defeat against champions-elect, and the guy said, how's that going to demoralise your squad? I mean, he was right. He must have been an ostrich. He must have had his head buried in the sand, because the team that couldn't buy a win for love nor money, that was cursed to the bottom of the league, was 14th and suddenly near all but safe. I mean, what was it, a game or 2 afterwards we drew with Sunderland and confirmed our safety? I mean, the guy deserved the ostrich comment, because we hadn't lost the game in like 8 before we played Chelsea, and we took the lead in that game.
Yeah, we did. I remember I was in a watching the show. I wasn't,
I watched John Terry slip over, mate. I got the best view in the house for it. It was brilliant.
And somebody said, oh, check the score at half time. So it was like Leicester winning 1-0. I'm like, get lost. But Dave, I mean, do you think? I mean, I could see what Brendan was trying to do. Brendan, bloody hell! I could see what Nigel was trying to do. Jose Mourinho could do it very well, which was deflect any attention off his players onto him. Nigel was trying to do that, but couldn't do it quite as well. I mean, he told a Liverpool or a Leicester fan to walk off and climb in a coffin. He attacked a Palace player on the sideline. It was never boring, was it?
No, I think he did. He did what he felt at the time he had to do, and I don't think with him it was premeditated. It was just the way he was. I mean, he's quite a fiery footballer, and I think he was very passionate about it all. And God, we could have done with that passion without going off the subject. But I mean, he just did it, and he knew it would take the pressure off the players because everybody wants a manager in the Premier League to mess up and do stuff like that. That's why Jose did it, because it was all about him, and it worked.
But Dave, again, sticking with you, was this the greatest Great Escape there's ever been? I mean, like I say, we'd been 20th. No team had survived being bottom as long as we had. In those last 9 games, we beat West Ham, we beat West Brom, we beat Swansea, we beat Burnley, we beat Newcastle, we beat Southampton, we drew with Sunderland, we stuffed Queen's Park Rangers 5-1. Or was it a case of we just happened to, probably looking at it there, didn't have the hardest of run-ins? But then
we were playing well most of the season. We just needed the break, and we got a couple of breaks, and then the confidence shot up. I think they were all pretty confident at the time. I can't remember any rubbish going on, criticisms or any news from. I mean, Brad would know more than me because he was there, but I just thought we were unlucky, and we just needed something to happen. And once it did, bloody hell! And that West Brom game kind of cemented it. So I don't think that it was an easy run-in. It's the Premier League, but we were playing all right. We were doing all right.
Brad, was it the greatest Great Escape there's ever been?
I think so, not just statistically, but I think given everything that was up against us. I mean, I know West Brom fans will gargle and gurgle on the fact that there isn't going to last game. It doesn't matter when it gets done. The fact is, ours was still better because we were there longer. We had lower points than you, and we had to win 9 out of 11 games. You by some fluke stayed up on the last day, needing 65 results to go your way, and by some miracle it happened. Ours was grit, determination, and some actual quality to stay up. I think ours will always be the better one, whether you judge it on statistically or the emphatic rise. And what happened for me, it was because. Yeah, I mean, I know I worked there, Dave, and you're right. I did get whispers of the players because they walked past the area where I worked quite a lot. And some of the players are going, nah, we're going to get rub of the green. We work so hard. This ain't going to last. We're going to get there. We're going to do this. We are going to stay up. We can still do it. And you did hear it. I can't name names or anything like that, just in case someone wants to say, no, I didn't. I never said that. But, you hear them. They never sounded beat. And when you hear that, if you hear that at a football club that's in trouble, they tend to go down. So I knew myself secretly there was still belief in the dressing room and how they were playing, and they were really believing their own words of compliments from the opposition, if you will.
Yeah.
As good as that season was, it did end on a bit of a sour note, and I don't want to go into the scandal that happened, but it was disgusting, and quite rightly the club got the players out. But very quickly, both of you, Dave first, Pearson leaving. It happened very quickly, but his son obviously went. I was sad to see him go.
Yeah, so was I, and I don't really know what happened. I don't think it was made obvious. I mean, it seems obvious when you look and see what happened, but did he go? Was he pushed? Was he given an ultimatum and he didn't want to do it? I don't know. It just seemed a bit strange at the time after a fantastic season.
Brad, I mean, you were there. Do you know any? I was disappointed. I'd sort of spoken to him a couple of times, and he was off camera. He was the nicest guy you could ever as manager. But then again, a lot of managers are off camera.
No, Nigel was a great person. I met him several times down at the training ground. In fact, one time when me and my boss were laughing and joking, she told me, she was telling me off, but not in like a mean way or anything. Nigel walked past and he went, "You leave my mate alone. Brad's all right." She went, "Great. Now I can never tell you off because you're friends with Nigel Pearson." And he was great. And look, you know, you see it all the time in any sort of unfortunate, and I'm just going to call it unfortunate scenario he found himself in. He was a parent first, right? And there was no malice because there's no way he would have returned to manage their sister club if there was. There was no malice. He was basically told, look, punishment fits all, which I think he knew was coming. I think he was trying to maybe find a way to soften the blow because of for his son's sake, but it was kind of can't have one rule for one rule for the other. And he went, look, this doesn't affect your job, but we're going to sack him. We've got to sack him. And Pearson went, well, I'm not standing here while my son gets sacked. If he gets sacked, I'm off. And the owners kind of went, well, we don't want you to go, but we can't be unjust. He went, no, that's fine. That's fine, but I'm not staying then. And it was from there, really.
And Northern.
Then it all changed, and we look at the next season, which was quite, nobody saw coming.
No, Gary Lineker did.
Leicester Till I Die podcasts on the Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Anchor, and all podcast platforms.
Something is coming. Something big to this podcast.
Hello, Chris.
It was to get an international manager in to replace him, and I'll start with our thoughts on Mr. Ranieri coming in. I can remember, and I've still got a link to it, writing for the Metro at the time online, and I can remember actually saying, "I'm pleased we're getting Ranieri in." No, he's never actually won a title in any of the main countries, but so what? This is Leicester. We're not Man United. He's got a lot of teams to sort of second and third, and if he gets Leicester to those positions, I'll be more than happy. I was really pleased to see him. Little did I know that he was going to prove me wrong and actually take us a step further. Dave, were you happy to see Ranieri when he came in? Were you thinking like, oh God, were you on a Lineker side or on my side?
Oh, definitely not Lineker's side. No, I don't think I was totally excited by it, but I didn't frown upon it. He seemed a decent bloke. He was treated harshly at Chelsea for what he'd done for them at the time. Because at the time, don't forget, they weren't one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, okay, why not? But I wasn't overexcited about it, I must confess.
Brad?
See, I was the one that was very excited by it because this is what annoyed me is the media made a right stickler for the fact that he got sacked as Cyprus manager. Well, he had 4 games. Greece, sorry. I think they lost. That still just as bad as one another. Greece, Cyprus, both shy.
He lost to the Faroe Islands, which was his last game, which didn't look.
Yeah, but he had 3 games in charge of them, and even he said, "What? Nobody can do that at any level, club or international level." So people are so fixated on that they forget that because, like Dave said, Chelsea weren't exactly the wealthy. Well, they were wealthy. Abramovich had just got there, sort of thing, but they were still relying on old heads being there. They were only just starting. They were like the early stages, like what Man City were when they had Mark Hughes in charge and they were signing them sort of players. But he won them the FA Cup, the first bit of silverware in years. He had them finishing second, and in an era that was still really easily being dominated by Fergie.
Second to Arsenal's Invincibles.
Exactly, and that says it all. When he's coming second to a team that didn't lose a game, I mean, what else can you do, really? I mean, that's a brilliant season, and I kind of obviously I never expected him to do what he did as manager of Leicester. No one would have, but I kind of got that O'Neill vibe. I thought, here's a manager that can settle us now. That talk of builders and makers a European club. Lo and behold, we never knew what was in store for us at the point. But I thought, 3 years, top 10 finish, I can see that with Ranieri. I was quite optimistic.
The only one, Dean Hammond signed a 1-year contract extension, so nothing to get overexcited about on that side. And we didn't actually have what I would call a big pre-season game because we always seem to have one, whether it's at a German, Spanish, French club. We had Lincoln, Mansfield, Burton. We always seem to have Rotherham and Birmingham City. Wasn't our first game, was it, Brad? That Birmingham City friendly.
Yes, it was. It was the Birmingham City game that we did our first review of.
No, we couldn't. No wonder with that season. We haven't been going 8 years.
No,
it must have been another one. But look, you know,
the one before it was Blackburn. It was the season before, and it was a Blackburn game in a friendly, I think.
No, it wasn't that. We haven't been going that long. We've only been going about 4 seasons maximum. So
come on, girls, keep on topic.
It was Birmingham.
Well, whatever it was definitely a Birmingham or a Blackburn game. We definitely did. It
began with B. Definitely began with B. But look, Dave, we say this, and I say, as much as I love Ranieri, and look, you know, I've got a signed shirt of him up there in the top right corner. I love the guy, but he built on what Pearson had put in place.
That's what good managers
come off
do.
That fantastic 1 loss in 9 games. We were buzzing, and it's like when we came off. You know, the fact that we'd done so well, albeit not against Watford. He built on that, and he didn't tinker too much, did he?
No, I mean that's what good managers do. They see what's good about it and make it better, and that's what he did. I mean, I think he signed Katey, didn't he? And who else did he sign? Probably
Katey was a Pearson signing.
Was he? You sure?
But just before Pearson left. Because then we weren't sure whether Katey. Okay. I think I was right. I don't think Katey was sure whether he was going to come or not because they just sacked the manager or allegedly sacked the manager that was going to be bringing him in.
Because I think I've seen somewhere where Walsh, he was the other Steve Walsh, was trying to make sure Ranieri signed him, but that may have been somebody else then. But
it could have been because it was Pearson that was looking at him.
But he did add to the squad sensibly, but he didn't complicate it, did he?
No.
I mean,
Brad, do you think the same as well? Do you think he won it on what Pearson's foundations were what led to Ranieri winning it? I'm not saying Pearson would have won it, but it was as much Pearson's title in my eyes.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, yes. Okay, yes, in terms of the confidence that was left from the season before, the players' unity was built by Pearson, but you still have to plan the tactics. You still have to train the players your way. So whilst he was handed a squad, you could say that really about any manager who wins anything in their first season. You could say, oh, well, Mark Edwards didn't get Luton promoted because he was handed the squad that was built before him by the manager previous. Well, yeah, but he also did the tactics that kept them going and got them in the playoffs. And it's the same for Ranieri. Yes, it wasn't his team. Well, we knew that. No manager who comes in instantly, is it their team? Someone might this season because they've got to rebuild for us, but that wasn't the case for Ranieri. He had a squad. He had a pre-installed confidence, and the one thing is, thankfully, let's remember. I know we'll get onto it next, but let's remember that it nearly went the same way as a certain, Tater Peeler did when he just let the players play off confidence from O'Neill. So he did his work. It wasn't until he really tried to get his heels into it and the Tinkerman returned that it went sour. But for that season, he should take more credit than he's sometimes afforded. Because I think some people easily just go, no, it was Pearson because of what happened later on.
Yeah, I think it was, I think it was a combination. I think had Ranieri come in the season before, we may not have stayed up. And had Pearson stayed, we may not have won it. But players that came in there through that season was a certain Mr. Fuchs came in free from Schalke. That was the bad signing. We made Mr. Huth's deal permanent, which was another good thing. A certain Japanese player from Mainz, Mr. Okazaki, fish and chip lover, came in. The aforementioned Kante. Johan Benaloon from Atlanta, Gochlin Inler, who never really along with Benaloon, neither of them got much game time. A certain Mr. Everson came in from Eschberg. Daniel Amati from Copenhagen came in just for you. I knew that was going to get a reaction.
How much did we pay for him?
We paid $5 million for him.
Too much.
In fact, on here it said he was the centre back. But we also, well, if I'm going to give that one to you, I'm going to give this one to Brad, because we also brought in Damari Gray from Birmingham City for $3.7 million. So there we go. Funnily enough, though, those are the players we brought in. Going out, we sold Chris Wood to Leeds, David Nugent to Middlesbrough, but we also loaned out Konchesky, Tom Lawrence, the aforementioned, Liam Moore, Jack Barmby, bloody hell, Ben Chilwell went out on loan to Huddersfield, Joe Dodo went out to Bury, Kranjčević went out to Hoffenheim, Benaloon, who had only just come in, went out to Fiorentina, and Richie Delat went to Middlesbrough, but would come back at the end of the season and claim a championship medal, as I think Benaloon did as well. I can remember that first game, and I knew we were going to do well, because if you remember, this was the season I gave up my season ticket, because we struggled the year before. Don't want to give myself too much credit, but look, I went to that first game, I got a ticket, and I can remember sat there, and I was sat next to some Sunderland fans, and I couldn't believe it. I think was it 5-2 that we won?
4-2.
4-2, yeah. And I can remember turning to my son and saying, "Who the hell is this Okazaki guy?" I said, "He's going to have a bloody heart attack in a minute." he never. It was like it's like letting a dog loose when you've got a bit of meat on your foot, and he was following around, and he never played more than 60 minutes. But what a fantastic! And he wasn't the world's best or top goal scorer, but he hit it off, didn't he, with Vardy, Dave?
Yeah. He was so energetic, and he looked like it was fun for him. It was a breath of fresh air, really. And he didn't play that many games, did he? He was substitute a lot and mixed it up from my memory anyway.
And, 9 times out of 10 he came off on 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Because basically, I think, because he was knackered.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think that first game. I'm trying to think what was it? We say 4-2, was it?
4-2, yeah.
4-2,
yeah.
See, that was only Sunderland, wasn't it? So I wasn't too excited about that, I must say. But
I think we just needed to carry on where we had left off, though.
Yeah.
But quiz question for you here, Brad, because I know you love a good quiz. How many times was Okazaki offside that season? No, joking. How many games did we lose? What was that?
We only lost 3 games that season, twice to Arsenal, once to Liverpool.
Indeed. And that first loss against Arsenal was a bit of brought us back down to earth. We'd beaten Sunderland, we'd beaten West Ham, drew with Tottenham and Bournemouth, beat Villa with Mr. Dyer, who was a loan deal that came in from Swansea, 4-0 and got up to a header. Drew with Stoke and then Arsenal. It was a bit like coming back down to earth, wasn't it, Brad?
Yeah, it was. It was a reality check, and I even remember, I don't remember leaving the ground that game because I was doing the clear up afterwards, as my job entailed us to do. But I remember just walking through the grounds as people exiting, and they're going, "Oh well, that was fun, weren't it? That was fun. Like, hopefully, it won't do what we did last year, but it was fun while it lasted. Being because we gone top for a while at some points, maybe only for." Like 40 minutes or whatever, a couple of minutes we were top before results. But then everybody was going, "Oh, well, that was nice, weren't it? But all right, back to reality, here we go," sort of thing. And it just never seemed to really, there wasn't a bother about it, was there? Yeah, it was annoying that we'd lost 5-2, but the game really could have ended 5-4 or 5-all on the day. I mean, it was a game where, players were missed a few chances, not easiest chances, but you didn't leave the game thinking, oh God, here we go. No, here we go. We're going to lose we didn't get that feeling that this is going to be the start of a plummet. And that showed with the results that swiftly followed from that game.
Yeah.
I think also we couldn't keep a clean sheet, but it didn't seem to matter.
But they needed pizza and they needed hot dogs to be chucked into the deal before they decided to keep a clean sheet.
Ranieri said at one point he was ready to buy them a 3-course Sunday roast. Brendan, maybe that's how you keep a clean sheet, mate. Dave, I mean, that season we didn't have a run in the League Cup. We got knocked out by Hull City on penalties in the 4th round. And that was Hull City would come back and bite us on the bum the following season. In the FA Cup, we only made it to the 3rd round replay, and we got knocked out by Spurs. And a lot of other clubs were going through transitions. I mean, Spurs were just being Spurs. Arsenal were going for their normal 4th spot. Liverpool, Klopp was still kind of settling in. Man City was sacking their manager, and announcing it with sort of a couple of months to go. So that was a weird decision. And we had no Europe, but it doesn't matter. We still had to go out and do it, and the country was behind us, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we didn't make it easy. I mean, we have a problem with Bournemouth, don't we? I mean, was that a 1-1 draw, if I remember?
Right at the start of the season, it was 1-1, yes.
Yeah. And we knew we could do that. But when you see then, we went to Stoke at some stage, we were 2-0 down and going to get beat. And I think we got a point out of it. We got back to
that was a game that Vardy wrongly got sent off for a foul. And funny enough, your favourite player, I think, Marty scored in that game.
Yeah, well, I've forgotten that. But
what, against No, he was West Ham when Vardy got sent off.
No, he also got sent off against Stoke, unless you're thinking of unless it's a different season we're both thinking of. But there was definitely a game.
I thought we've come back from 2-0 down with 10 men. I really did, but
that might have been the next season, Dave, because we did it twice to Stoke. We came from 2-0 down to draw with them and other teams like that.
But I think results like that started to make them realise that, hang on, we don't care if we're 2 down. We don't fear anybody. We can fight back. We can score goals. And
we did come back from 2-0 down, but we drew 2-2.
Right, yeah.
Vardy, Mahrez and Vardy. That was the first game against Stoke. Right. I think I know what you're thinking of, but I'm trying to see when we played them again. We beat them 3-0.
Well, we beat them 3-1 at home because Jack Butland was a goalkeeper for him, wasn't he? Do you remember him when he was supposed to be England's next biggest goalkeeper?
3-0 that was,
I mean, it was definitely a away game, but we had confidence. We felt, we could do anything. We were building our confidence, and Ranieri was a great people person. I think he never put any pressure on the players.
No.
He always said 40 points, which we all got behind because we all wanted 40 points after the season before. And it just ticked on and on and on, and suddenly we got 40 points. And then, to be honest, the next thing I remember, without jumping ahead, is we were in the Champions League.
He did set the targets, didn't he, Brad, as we went through. He never threw any players under the bus. You never heard him complain about anybody. Maybe it came with the fact that there was no pressure on him because he was told to keep us in the division, which he obviously did very, very easily. I mean, we started, as Boris said earlier, after the first game, we were top of the league. And as Gary said to Claudio on Match of the Day, not just staying in the league, is it Champions League we're going for? We were first for a couple of weeks. We actually, can you believe, after 7 games, we had dropped to 6th. Oh my God, how did he keep his job? But then, from the 22nd game, which I can tell you was actually a 1-0 win over Tottenham Hotspur at their stadium, we were number 1 for the rest of the season, Brad. And it was just like, I worked with a Spurs fan, and it was like, if we're gonna cop this up, this is Leicester. We shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, it wasn't just that though, was it? It wasn't like a bag of nerves going, "Oh God, we're going to screw it up." It was just like, "This isn't going to last," but I'm loving it, And I don't think any Leicester fan, it really is that there is probably you could probably ask 7 Leicester fans in a row, right, which game they thought, actually, we might actually do this, and they'd probably, all right, maybe now because it's years later down the line, it'd be hard to not think past that Man City away game. But I reckon if you'd asked them at the end of that season, where did you actually start to think we'd win it? And you'd get 7 different answers. Yeah, because it's just Leicester. We know what we're like. Yeah. We never take winning league seriously because it's not the Leicester motto, is it? Leicester winning league? No, it's not. We're not going to get carried away. We're not going to think, Arsenal have suffered that syndrome ever since. They always seem to get a brain injury and think the season ends in February. So, it cost them this. They never learn, do they? Because that happened this season to them. But,
I remember it being, I thought Palace away was when I started to believe. And I can't remember.
The crowd, I remember listening to that game. I mean, the poor guy in the tunnel, he was a wasted man staying there, getting paid for hours, just telling Leicester fans to please shut up so they could be let out. And the fans, it said that's the first time I've genuinely got goosebumps over hearing just a crowd.
I was there with
forget the moment, but the crowd.
Fan. Yeah, I was there with a mate who's a Palace fan, and he got bored waiting. He was sitting there waiting because we couldn't get out. And he said, "Where the hell you been?" I said, "You're going to win the league," tongue in cheek. But I can't remember what time of year that was. I mean, was it April time, March time? But that's the moment I started to
remember was it the West Brom manager that stood there, and I think we'd just beaten them, and they said, "I really want Leicester to go on and win the league now." At the press conference afterwards, I thought that'll go down well with your own fans, mate. Who was? I can't remember who it was, but did it matter? Did it matter, Dave, that we didn't win it at our place? We didn't do it against Man United. I remember being in the pub, and I remember all the Man United, even Man United fans, because obviously I live in Poole, so it was full of Man United fans, of course. But as I left the pub, saying to me, "Go on and beat Everton and win it now." And that's like, oh, what? What did you just say? I said to Joyce, I think we're going to have to sneak out here. But it wasn't disappointing that we won it. The way we did, was it?
Not at all. It was my birthday, actually, and I was on my own at home. Everybody had gone out because they knew I was going to watch. Well, they knew I'd watch Chelsea Spurs, and it was a very tense time because then we really believed it. Really believed it. And I did a Vardy, really, when it went in, that last goal. Just on my own, though. He had a few mates with him. But I was happy that we won it then. Then we could relax.
Yes.
As supporters, anyway.
Yeah. Brad, 2016-17. Again, talk about after the Lord Mayor show in the league. Ranieri got sacked that season. He had to go, didn't he, when he went?
Yeah, he did. Otherwise, it would have been really awkward saying that we were the English club that got the furthest in the Champions League, but also got relegated. It was only going one way, and unfortunately, he made the mistakes of past managers, and Katey. He couldn't resist scratching that itch. He couldn't resist that nickname. It was like a werewolf staring at a full moon. He couldn't stop himself from transforming into the Tinkerman. And when he did that, I remember, Chris, the Chelsea game where we played at Stamford Bridge, and I can't remember if we were kind of playing a group game, a league game, group game. I think it was just at the start of that period, and I remember that game for so many reasons. It was bizarre. I think we lost 4-2 or something like that, and that. But I visibly remember seeing players looking at each other like, "I don't know. Like, what are you doing?" And they weren't saying, "What are you doing?" It was like, "What are we doing?" And it was pros. "I don't know." And he was like, "Are you supposed to be here?" You could see them going, "Are you supposed to be there?" "I don't know. He's not making any sense. He keeps changing his mind." And it was the saddest sacking in my opinion, I've ever not wanted to happen. But it had to happen, Chris. You're right. It had to happen.
It's funny, Dave, that everybody from all of the teams, we'd gone from being everybody's favourite to being everybody's unfavourite, or whatever the word is. I remember having an argument with Jason Cundy on Talk Sport, and he said, "How can you sack a manager that's just won you the Premier League?" I said, the same way that your team sacked Jose Mourinho when he was Chelsea manager and he just won you the Premier League.
We were only going one
It
way.
was a weird season. We brought in such greats as Ron Robert Zieler. He joined us. Barot Kapuska joined us. 29 million on Islam Slimani that we ended up losing every penny on, and Wilfred Ndidi. But like Brad alluded to earlier, I mean, Arsene Wenger to come out and go, and then just as Anthony joins us here, Arsenal fan, but Arsene Wenger to come out and say Leicester City are going to embarrass us in the Champions League. And then it was his team that went on and lost 10-2 on aggregate to somebody. We were the last team in the Champions League, the last British team in the Champions League, the last English team in the Champions League, quarterfinals. And as I said the other night, being at my stadium, watching my team with my son, listening to that Champions League music and thinking, this is a quarter-final of... Yeah. I mean, I don't think at that point Man City had been that far.
No. I mean, Wenger wasn't wrong, was he? The way we'd been playing in domestic competition wasn't good. But then Ranieri seemed to turn it round when we played in Europe. Maybe the style of play that he wanted to do suited Europe, but not the UK, not England. So, you know, I mean, Wenger normally...
Say that to Boris, who went to Porto.
Well, yeah, good point.
We'll blame Ron Roberts.
To be fair, Porto away, first of all, was Harvey Barnes' debut. I remember it well. And secondly, we were already through in top of our group. So I'm sorry that you wasted your money on it for that purpose, but I kind of feared it being a dead rubber. It was a dead rubber for Leicester.
Yeah, it was. And
that game.
And we were never going to do too much. But
Shakespeare came in as number 2, Brad, as they got us to that quarter-final. And we managed to stay up, albeit we had been the worst defending team of the Premier League, but by one place, because I think Chelsea had finished 11th and we finished 12th or something. But it was still, for me, a great season because of that Champions League run.
Yeah, I mean, even if the Champions League run wasn't so successful, I think it's still a great season because it was still only our 3rd season back in the Premier League. The 5,000 to 1 miracle had happened, and sour grapes will say it was a complete fluke. I don't know how you can fluke your way through 38 games to win a title, but there you go. There'll always be sour grapes. But even us fans were still, and I think that's what got the love back for the club. You talk about that sort of snake period that the players were given for hounding Ranieri out. I think the fact is the humbleness stayed with the fans, that they weren't expecting it. If you'd have told Leicester you're going to win the Premier League, but finish 10th or 12th or whatever it was, they'd have gone, okay, fine, I'll take it, because that's what Leicester are doing. We don't suddenly get this entitled arrogance that other fans have, that they think, oh, no, we must always win the league, we must always be in the top 3. You don't understand how difficult it is, to chase to win that league, especially now you've got the monster that is Manchester City there. But it was still a good season, and may I just say, not to brag, and I know West Ham have done it since. Little bastards, West Ham. You had to ruin it, didn't you? But we are still the only English team that can handle Seville in the Champions League. I'm just saying. And we were the first English team to show them how it's done.
They haven't done it in the Champions
League. That's what I said. That's why I made the point of the Champions League. I know West Ham did it in Europa League, but not bad for a team that was going to get knocked out on 0 points.
Yeah. I put it there, Dave. Champions of Britain. I mean, we qualified for this, and there's nothing. If anything good came out of COVID, I think it was the death of the ICC pre-season tournament for the champions of the different countries. I mean, it was bloody ridiculous. First of all, the American, and you can understand. Well, we all know what American owners are like, don't we? But Americans have this it'd come up with this International Champions Cup. We played Celtic in Glasgow on the 23rd. A week later, we were playing Paris in California. And then 4 days later, we were playing Barcelona in Sweden. Complete and utter nonsense. Yeah. But we played Celtic, and we got a cup for that because it was like, we were champions of Britain at that point. We weren't just champions of England. We were champions of Britain because we'd beaten Celtic. Sorry, Mike Newport didn't get a look in.
Well, absolutely massive crash.
Yeah. That's up there with the English Super Cup. 1-1, 5-6 on penalties. Who cares? But
I didn't get my picture took with that one.
Paris beat us 4-0. Barcelona beat us 4-2. All I can remember that Barcelona game is, my God, who's this Musa that we bought? What a fantastic player. And like Slimani, these two players we bought that we just did not make the most of.
No, you're right. I mean, everyone slags him off, Slimani. It's not, but you'd have thought he might have hit it off. Played international football with Mahrez. He was a big striker, as Joa was, but we didn't either use him or didn't play to him.
No, I love Musa.
What was the point of him playing?
I love Musa, but to stick him out on the wing, and if you can score 2 goals against Barcelona, and as Mike says there, we actually played well that game, but we were up against a certain Argentinian that would go on to have quite a reasonable career over the years.
Apparently, Chris, if you remember the infamous picture, there was a goat on that pitch today, the greatest of all time, and Lionel Messi was lucky enough to get his picture taken with Mark Albrighton on that day as well, wasn't he?
Who scored our first ever goal in the Champions League, Mark Albrighton?
Indeed, he did.
He's got one more season.
That's a pub quiz question, and you know it.
Yeah. Got one more season left with us, and let's hope that he does stay. So that was that season. It then went a bit quiet. I say a bit quiet. 17-18. Paul Puel I've put there. He came in after Shakespeare didn't quite last the season. He kept us up, but again, we were struggling. And, it's surprising to think that the difference between father and son, maybe, and this isn't a criticism of Top. I've done that on and mentioned this on separate shows, but Dave, Puel, I think we were 17th, but he went quite quickly. Ranieri went quite quickly, and yet we held on to Brendan. And look what's happened. But we've got Puel. I mean, when we signed him, it was a bit like when we signed Brendan. All the Liverpool fans were coming out saying, "Don't do it, don't do it. You'll have a couple of good seasons." Puel, the Southampton fans were all going, "My God, he's going to bore you to death."
Yeah, you're right. And one of my very good friends is a season ticket holder at Southampton. He drives down from Leatherhead as well. And he said to me, he said, "You'll get the most boring football you've ever seen." He said, there won't be many goals. You'll hate it. And, he did okay. Kept us up. That seems to be the thing to do. But it wasn't much fun, was it? From what I remember anyway.
Not at all. Brad, I'm just looking here. That season we bought in Harry Maguire from Hull for 17 million, Ibora for 15, Jupokovic, Iheanacho for 25, George Thomas, he's gone down well, hasn't he? A certain player, Adrian Silva, who, but for 13 seconds, who knows what sort of career he'd have had with us. And of course, who can forget the absolutely amazing Diabate?
Oh, yeah, the man who scored 2 goals against Peterborough in the cup game and everybody lost their minds over. Yeah, I remember him well.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I was at a wedding.
The thing is, Chris, the biggest problem that team has is it was under a hypnotic spell, because every time the words Claude Puel were meant, Sorry, I forgot. I was there when he was appointed. Every time his name is said, it puts you instantly to sleep because he's so boring. I mean, he had a squad given to him that was some talent. I mean, he gave us an £80 million fraud, which is absolute genius. Probably the only decent bit of business he really did that window. But you talk about Musa, and you've mentioned him a lot when we've normally cast our eyes back over it, and this is the show to talk about it. I'm going to ask you a question, Chris. Here, do you think, in the nicest way possible, that certain players like Slimani, like Musa, suffered from Vardy syndrome? And what I mean by that is, we have said time and time again, no matter how well certain other strikers is, and probably throw Ian Nacho into it to some extent, that no matter how well they did, they would never play to their strengths because it had to be Vardy, because of how well he did that one season. I know he went on to have brilliant seasons, but could you not make the argue that the reason Kramaric wasn't as successful, or Musa wasn't as successful, or Slimani could only score in the Champions League was because Jamie Vardy was the overwhelming favourite head boy, if you will, of the striking department?
The thing with Vardy was that he had been our top goal scorer since we'd been in the Premier League. So he was always going to be first name on the team sheet. Musa, I don't think was ever played in that position. He was stuck out on the right, and so he never had the chance. I think the thing with Slimani, he's a bit like Iheanacho, he's a completely different player. So if you're going to buy a player like Slimani, don't try and make him into a Vardy. You get him and, play. If you're going to bring him on, then play to his strengths. Get the crosses in. He scored some great headers for us. That header that he scored against Porto in the Champions League, it was a brilliant goal because it crossed in and it was headed. He wasn't a ball to your feet sort of player. He was never going to run behind the defenders. And it's exactly the same. Every right winger we have had has suffered from the Mahrez effect. Unfortunately. So, yes, we needed somebody that was good enough to be second fiddle to Vardy, but they had Slimani who could play a different way, which was great because you don't want everybody playing the same way. You want to bring a sub on that's going to be different, but we just never played to his strengths, unfortunately. And you can blame that for Prel. Danny Drinkwater left that season, Dave. Yeah. I think looking back, he will admit that it probably wasn't the best decision he's ever made, but it's about money. Not he's not a Leicester lad. It was about money for him.
And we had bought Abora and Silva allegedly, so he probably thought, "Oh, my day's numbered here. Chelsea want me. 35 million Leicester fancied. Why not?"
He was parked outside their ground waiting, wasn't he? Allegedly.
But going back to the signings, we made some good signings that season. We should not have struggled at all.
Talking about Danny Drinkwater, if I can stick on him.
I thought we'd finished. He was parked outside the ground. I thought that would be it, really.
There was no reason. He was one of our best players. There's no reason for him to look at the other players that we're bringing in and thinking, I'm going to lose my position, because really it was his to lose. So as long as he carried on playing well.
Maybe, but he must have got a sense with Puel in charge and bringing in these continental midfielders. He must have had a thought about it. And if he hadn't have gone to Chelsea, he probably might not have got in the team regularly and he wouldn't have had that chance again. So whilst at the time I was pretty pissed off, I must say, I don't blame him now for it. It's just a shame he didn't make anything of it because he was a talent.
Yeah, it was always. I think it was that Drinkwater Kante thing that maybe blew Chelsea away a little bit, and realising that they'd bought the diamond. What they were about to get was a bit of old rusty copper to go with it. They'd already bought the best player. Brad, I've put it there. He was Player of the Year. He was the Player of the Year or the season. He wasn't a bad player at that time, was he, for Leicester, Harry Maguire?
No, Maguire wasn't. And he still isn't. Oh, he is still a decent standard defender. He's just in a mess of a team that he's fallen out of favour, and he's going to do somebody the world of good when he joins them, because he can play at that caliber. I mean, we was coming off the back of the dynamic duo of Morgan and Hoof. So the fact that he wasn't like he just swanned in there and had no pressure on him. He was taking over from a very successful, albeit brief, partnership of Hoof and Morgan. So we laugh and joke at how much we robbed Man United blind for him, because we did. He was never an £80 million player. But as I've always said and defended about the situation, he never asked Manchester United to pay Leicester's valuation for him. They did, but yeah, he was a very good player, and I think football's been very cruel and kind to him ever since he's moved, because of the extreme pressures that come. It's pressure enough to join Manchester United and be a success.
Yeah.
But the price tag on top of that just didn't help his cause.
He had a good first season, didn't he, with us? And then the second season, I think he struggled a little bit, which is when
I think he got found out a little bit, because he liked to kind of get the ball, but he wanted to distribute it far further up the pitch. He would not. Well, nobody did this season, but he definitely wouldn't have liked this playing out the back malarkey the way we were doing it, with our midfielder always giving it away so close to him. He wanted the ball as far away as possible so he could actually set back, because I think the one thing he was able to hide at Leicester, the way we played, was the fact that he isn't the quickest.
No. Well, I'd have him back.
Oh, I would definitely have him back. Yes, I don't think he'd drop down to the Championship.
I mean, for 12 million, for 12 million, the Kindle Bueno, I'd have him back.
Yeah. Finished 9th that season. Burnley got the last European place in 7th. But 9th again for a Leicester side. Let's be honest with you. For a long time, we would have been very, 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 very happy with that. That was 17-18. Look, 18-19. There's only one thing really that takes it over, and obviously that was the chairman passing away. I was supposed to go to that game. I didn't. I watched the game. We weren't playing well. We somehow managed to get a draw, I think quite luckily, off West Ham. It was on BT, and I'd gone off and I'd stopped watching to go off and do stuff for the website, Dave, and my phone just started to go mad, absolutely mad.
Well, I was at a party. I didn't see the game. I didn't know what was happening, and we I don't know. We were just leaving, though, no phone signal, and it came up. I thought, nah, this can't be right. So I'd actually missed all the drama and had to catch up on it, and I just didn't believe it. It was too horrendous for words, wasn't it?
It was numbing. I mean, the fact that they didn't confirm it for so long, I don't know, and obviously their respect for the families and everybody involved, not just Vichai, because there was others, there was the pilots and his assistants, but it was just hard to take in, Brad, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was such a horrible moment. And I, funny enough, like Dave, it happened. It happened on a night game, and because it was a night game, and I, as you know, I don't drive, so I was reliant on public transport at the time. I was like, look, I couldn't do the shift because there was no point me being there, because I'd have to leave before the game. And I said, I used what I did on them days is I would come in the morning after for a clear up, because nobody, we were working late into the night on them nights. And I remember I was watching it, funny enough, at the time, a friend of mine who was a West Ham fan, and the full-time whistle went. I was pissed off with the way we played. I think we conceded late on as well. We as well. So West Ham got a draw. I remember being outside the front, and I was having a cigarette out the front, and it this massive bang, and I just thought it was some kids pissing around setting off fireworks, which was the area we lived in. Well, I was at the time. It was common for that. So I thought, I remember thinking, "Oh, fucking kids!" And my mate just screamed, "Brad, you've got to come in here! Brad, you've got to come in here! Something's happened!" And I was like, "What?" And I thought, "Oh God, have they launched one into our garden?" So I didn't even know at this time. I'm where's, and then he said, "No, look at the telly! Something's gone on at the King Power." And I just remember feeling numb, and I couldn't say anything when it was like rumoured, and I know they were saying, "Oh, they don't know," and I was like, "Mate, that's a helicopter that's gone down. No one survived. No one's had a chance." And
saying anything really, silence says more than words sometimes, doesn't it? And I think the silence.
Well, there was also a bit of confusion, wasn't there? Because sometimes the son was with him, and no one actually. He went radio silent. That was the thing, and I think that's why it took a while, because sometimes they both left by the helicopter, and sometimes the son stayed behind. And I guess in a weird sort of way, thankfully, his son was staying behind that night.
Pop back into the stadium and see, who was there. I mean, it took them till the next day before it was sort of officially announced. But I mean, Dave, we've just got relegated, and when you look at that,
it's irrelevant, isn't it? Who cares? Yeah. No, it's irrelevant to what happened that day. Nothing would be any worse than that. It just changed everything, didn't it? Absolutely everything changed. The management, because Well would have gone, I think, that night or the next day. And I think the fact everything was put on hold, and rightly so, everyone just became numb. Everybody just wanted the season to finish. Well, I did. And just get it out of the way. But no, it was a complete shock. And I don't think we've ever got over it, I really don't.
I mean, Brad, the second picture there, together for Leicester, became quite a saying. I mean, Wembley lit up in blue. To coming together, and I know I've had banter today with Forest fans and what have you, but we have to remember that's what it is. It is banter. Yeah. When that happened, the coming together of the footballing family was amazing. I mean, Mike and James have just put two very nice comments there up about it. I had, if that had happened, and it's just how horrible, but if that happened to one of the Glaziers, yes, we'd all have said, all right, and all that. But I don't think we'd have had the outpouring of grief that was shown towards our owner, because I think people knew we just wasn't fans of the club within Leicester that did it. It was, even if you didn't like football in Leicester, because of what he'd given to the community. And as you can see there, that's a Sheffield United shirt on the picture. There was Nottingham Forest and Derby scarves tied to the ground. Yeah. I mean, it was an amazing, amazing feeling, wasn't it, Brad?
Yeah, it was. And in a moment of pure darkness, there's always a light, isn't there, that comes shining through. And unfortunately, you only seem to see it more often than not when it's something so tragic that happens, that the footballing world comes together. But, for the horror and the sad memory of that West Ham game, the game that everybody was gobsmacked, we even still went ahead as quick as it did, was one of the most beautiful connections made in football. Two clubs that couldn't have been any further apart in terms of location or care towards each other. I mean, one being Welsh, one being English, had every reason to not give a rat's arse about each other. But the way Cardiff City came to Leicester and came together for the club, that the displays they put on, and every other club with their notes and messages they put out on their websites and condolences they put out, it was one of them that brought happy tears to your face, to show that that's moments like that are when you go, you fuck your rivalries off, excuse my French. You put them to they get in the bin, because that's football is a sport we all love, and it's moments like that that you remember what football is all about. And I still remember seeing a few Cardiff videos after the game, because Damari Gray, God bless him, no matter what I thought of him as a player, he'll always be remembered as a guy who who scored the goal in that 1-0 win. And I remember there was a small section of the Cardiff City end that actually cheered when we scored. And you don't see that, do you? You don't see opposition fans cheering their team losing. But they were like, you deserved it. For everything you've gone through, for the hell them players must be going through mentally, to come out and win that game was getting emotional thinking about it. I'll be honest with you, because it was just such a moment.
The next game, Dave, it was cancelled. I think it was Southampton, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Southampton, but we played, then like Brad said, we played Cardiff, and I was going to come to you because I know Brad's not his biggest fan, but whatever we say about Demarai Gray, and look, you love players, you like players as much as I don't like the way that Katey left us or other players left us. I'll always love them for what they did, and I will always love Demarai Gray, as Brad said, for scoring that goal. And I'll never forget the look on the referee's face when he took his shirt off. And I don't think, to be honest with you, I wish all the other players had done it, because how do you book 11 players?
The referee was pathetic.
He had to. He
didn't. No, he didn't.
Yeah,
no.
Well, if he did, because it's in the laws,
He still didn't have to. I mean, there's lots of times that they don't do things that are in the laws. He didn't have to do it, and he shouldn't have done it. And if he'd have got into trouble...
His face was still like, oh, God, I don't believe this.
Well, don't do it then. You get into trouble after the game, you get a few points docked. Nobody would let him happen.
I'm in agreement with Dave. I think as much as I get what you're saying, like, it's the rules, took his shirt off. I think the FA would have had an absolute riot on their hands had he chose not to book him and just put his arm around him and gone, look, I know I should, but I'm not gonna, because of it's a very rare occasion, right? I'm not saying it wouldn't have caused an upset. You wouldn't have had people saying, oh, well, then they'll get away for doing it. No, it was a very somber occasion. It was a celebrated moment. He could put his arm around and gone, I know I should, but don't worry, I'm not. Right? Because the FA wouldn't have dared to fine that referee, because it'd have been the first time in football history that the football world had come together and gone, how dare you sack a referee for having a heart? I'm with Dave. He didn't have to book him.
When in the next game a player lifts a shirt up because some little girl's passed away for cancer and he's supporting her, and he lifts the shirt up or takes his shirt off, does he not let game book? So all the players have to do is write a message on the shirt. And look, don't get me wrong, obviously I don't think on that case, but let's be honest, it's very easy for players who seem to want to show off and show their body off, take the shirt off at any opportunity. But I just think, unfortunately, I've got to say the referee had to do it.
No, I think if all they needed to do, Chris, was not do it, and then
maybe have just made a public statement saying, look, we're going to allow Leicester.
Well, if they could have rescinded the yellow card then, I suppose, couldn't they? But no, we'll agree to disagree, but I certainly think he had to do it, because those are the rules, and rules basically should be rules. And
you say rules should be followed. Ask me that about the FFP, but we won't talk about that. We won't talk about that.
The rules of the game are that if you take your shirt off, you get booked. And like I say, every time, whether it's Mario, whatever he was called, lifting his top up that says, why always me? Yeah, and then you've got somebody that, what's he called, done it? James Madison's done it about a little girl he was supporting from Norwich. Took his top off to reveal a shirt. At what point do you say, it's all right, that was for that. That was for that.
That question,
my dad died on this day last year. Yeah. That goal was for you, Dad. Oh, we can't book him. It just goes on and on. But look, we will agree to disagree.
I think it's stupid to book somebody for taking the shirt off anyway if they score a goal.
Well, why don't you just get your shirt on?
Well, because you're in the moment, aren't you? You're in the moment.
Not these days, you're not, because you've got to wait 10 minutes of VAR to justify it.
Yeah, well, that's true, yeah. Pointless.
Maybe that explains VAR, Chris. That's why they've stopped doing it, because they don't get booked for a goal that's going to get ruled out for offside.
Well, this is true. This is very true. We will agree to. We will end it there. We'll agree to disagree. R.I.P. Vichai. Rodgers, Brad. Rodgers revealed that season, like Dave said, maybe earlier if it hadn't happened then. With Vichai, Rodgers came in. I think we all got a little bit excited, didn't we?
Yeah, well, we did, because I'm not sure why though, because we'd all been taking the piss saying, it's the Scottish Celtic League, which it was. Let's face it, with Rangers being deducted and everything, and not in the same league with it. It was Celtic Scottish Premier League, wasn't it? It wasn't the SFPL or whatever you'd call it. It wasn't that. It was the CPL. It was the Celtic Premier League. It was them winning everything. We'd got the warning signs with what happened at Liverpool, but I suppose it just been a while. Maybe it was the Northern Irish thing. Maybe it was we thought about the last time we had someone like that in charge was what they achieved. So maybe we thought he'd do that. And look, no matter what we think of what he did the last 18 months or so, Palland, for the first 2 years, he did bring the success, and he was he might. Yes, he was. He ended up being a bell end, but the first 2 years, he did bring us the success we hoped. And
shouldn't we have known, Brad, that anybody that leaves a club that's going to win the title mid-season has got to have some personal issues? I mean, I didn't even think about it at the time because he was coming to us. But
I think the fact is, I think the fact is everybody knew the reason he went Celtic. It was to rebuild his career.
Yeah,
it was rebuild his reputation because, no offence, but it wasn't even like he got sacked from Liverpool. He was replaced by Roy Hodgson, who was worse. I mean, how did he get sacked by Liverpool and replaced by, back then, Roy Hodgson was a young spring chicken of 87. Now he's 192, back at Palace for his 9th year. But, he did that for a reputation rebuild.
Yeah, he did. And so that's
when you lie on your CV and get a job?
No.
Well, the people who say,
That's just you. But transfers in that season was Johnny Evans, James Maddison, Ricardo Pereira, Danny Ward. Oh, yes. Rashid Gazelle, Philip Benkovic, Kagla Soyuncu. There's some good signings that came in that season under Puel. And, of course, let's not forget in January he brought in Yuri Tielemans.
Rodgers.
So that was, and we finished with, it didn't matter where we finished that season, did it? We all literally, but just wondering how often Brad lied to get a job now.
Yeah, well, he got on here, right?
If the DWP's listening, I've got his address. Message me. Ring me.
Don't you think it's weird?
He's back.
It's weird that the centre halves that Rodgers signed were pretty.
So I just had to take off NASA space pilot off my CV because apparently you can't just make things up.
I was there with you, mate. It's on mine as well.
Crap.
Well, I've been with you two. Can I put it on mine?
Yeah. I don't know who you are. You were there with us.
No, some people call him a space cowboy. Yeah, let's see if you get that. No, there you go.
2019-20. The infamous pink top that I hated but loved by the end. How to turn 10 million into 80 million there with Mr. Maguire. Well done, Ollie. Best ever and still best ever Premier League away win. Equal overall, but the best ever away. And we ended up 5th and qualifying for the Europa League. Suddenly, Brendan had brought the magic touch with him, Dave.
No, we blew it. We were Champions League most of the season, weren't we? If I remember it, or was that the second time?
No. I think we. Oh,
we were in the top 2 or 3 most of
the. No. He skillfully did it twice, Dave. He skillfully did it twice.
I mean, the 2 games at home, Tottenham was it, and then Man United the following year, or the other way around, and we blew it. We absolutely blew it towards the end. We ran out of steam. We lost confidence. It was never going to happen. Never going to happen. And and I think a lot of that has contributed to what happened where we've gone now.
I hate to say this, Dave, but you were right.
About what in particular?
Not everything. No, just we first 2 games we were 12th, then 4th, 3rd, 5th, 3rd, 4th, a couple of 2. We were 2s and 3rds we were 3rd from midway all the way through 4th, and then the last 2 games we were 5th.
Yeah.
So yes, we Did we blow it though, or
Yeah, we blew it. We blew it big time. Was the last game Man United that year, or was that Tottenham? That was Man United.
Last
wasn't it?
game was Man United. Yeah,
Johnny Evans
Tottenham was
got
the game before, and then Man United, and we lost both.
All right. Johnny Evans got sent off, didn't he? And Schmeichel went walkabouts, if I remember, for the last goal. But we were just rubbish.
Jack Garcia imploded at Bournemouth.
Oh God, he did.
Oh
didn't
God, yes, that was 4-1. I was there.
Bournemouth again. What is it with Bournemouth?
It was Bournemouth we beat. Yeah, it was Bournemouth again. Yeah, you said that early, didn't you? Brad, blow it or punching above our weight?
We were punching above our weight, but it really pissed me off that Brendan Rodgers kept saying that. Because I thought, if anything, he should have been backing the players. But every time... I mean, you have to remember, and I really wanted to punch the Scottish twat that kept bringing it up, saying that we'd never chase them down. I knew we wouldn't, but the arrogance in way he said it, and I can't remember his name, but he was on ESPN, and he was just a knobhead I wanted to punch. He had a punchable face and a punchable attitude. But I remember us being the only team in that season. Was this the season that Liverpool ran away with the title? This was the season they did it, wasn't it? This was the 19th. This was the season they did it, or the second.
Nobody was there. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah. So it was the season they ran away with it because they had no.
I'm desperately trying to just find the table for that season, and I can't.
Because we was like 5 points off them before we played them, and it was the Christmas period where we kind of, well, for 3 years in a row, we conveniently got Liverpool and Manchester City. But it's a computer that picks the fixtures. Bollocks, bullshit. But yeah, we conveniently had Liverpool on Boxing Day and
Liverpool 99 points, Manchester City 81.
Yeah, so they got. I mean, they'd practically won the league in December, which was, I know not mathematical or anything, but they were that far in front from that point onward. I think they had like a 14, 16 point lead. That's how you hold on to a lead, Arsenal. But there you go. I thought I'd get a dig in there in case Anthony's still around. But no, but at that point when we played them, we were 5 points off them. But we lost, and I know they absolutely battered us. I think they beat us 4-0. It was absolute embarrassment. They absolutely floored us, and they proved why they were going to win the league because they were doing that all the way through. But never once, and it pissed me off because Brendan Rodgers would get asked the question, Oh, Leicester, you're doing really well. Oh, yeah, but we're punching above our weight. Where the aim's still Europe. Well, what? Yeah, okay, you can maybe take the pressure off getting fourth, but why? What? The way he said it was so negative. It wasn't like, okay, Ranieri had it easy because nobody expected 5001 to actually become a reality, did they? Even in February and March, it was like, yeah, but you're not really going to win the league. We all know it's a joke. But back then it was like, hold on, they've won the league. They've got to a quarterfinals of the Champions League. They finished in, top 9 last season. They've signed some really good quality players. They're creating a buzz. Yeah, why can't Leicester get top 4 again? Why can't they finish in, even if it's 4th, they'd still warrant being it? No, Leicester can do it. And it felt like he didn't want to praise them and big them up enough.
He was getting
Maybe he knew they were.
He was getting ready to fail.
Well, it gave him the bailout to then turn it and put a spin on it. When realistically, I think them players needed that momentum. So when it did start to creak, they would have had that fucking no. We're going to beat you because we deserve this. We've worked so hard. And I think once you don't think we're good enough. Maybe we're not good enough. Mentality kicked in. It never left. It actually it eroded into the Leicester ship and got us to where we are today.
Yep. You would have taken the start to the season, though.
Oh yeah, of course you would have. Both of them, you would have taken it. It was very
well, as they say, eat, sleep, repeat. Because the following season we finished 5th again. And I've got 3 highlights there: how to turn 29 million into 0. And we think this is new. Not making any profit on players. We seem to have got a history of that. Finishing 5th in Europa League again, but there's only one thing to talk about for this season. At the 5th attempt, we were the biggest club apparently not to have ever won it, Crowds just being allowed back into the ground. So there was about 20 odd thousand, wasn't there? And it was thanks to VAR. We might live to regret not having it next season. And Ben Chilwell's big toenail. We were FA Cup winners, Dave. Did you ever think you'd be alive to see that? Because I didn't.
No, and I would have taken that in my lifetime. Forget the league, FA Cup I'd have taken. I was unfortunate enough to be there at one of them, and
I'm presuming it was the 69 and not
yes,
the.
it was. Yeah, it was
not the 53
well,
or whatever it was.
a bit too young for the 63 one, but yes, the 69, and it was horrendous. I mean, we've lost it playoffs there, and that was bad enough. But for some reason, because we were a good side anyway, I know we don't talk about it, but 69, we should have won that. We were playing super football. But anyway, yeah, it was great. It's just a shame I couldn't go.
Yeah,
typical, isn't it? Waited all these years,
yes,
and some stupid bloody COVID thing means you couldn't get in.
But I mean, we watched it, didn't we, Brad? And it was, I was in tears. I was sat there watching it on the telly with my son. I turned away to talk to him because I was breaking up on my tears. I just felt the tears welling up. And, I turned around eventually and there he was sat there crying as well. I mean, it was Premier League, FA Cup. For me, it's still got to be the Premier League. But this FA Cup, I think it was because it was the 5th attempt we'd finally done it.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't alive for any of the 4 attempts. So in my lifetime, I've 100% success ratio. Seen them play in the FA Cup final, won it. Bob's your teapot, yeah, to you and all. But no, yeah, I think it's always going to be the Premier League. Let's face it, the fact that Leicester had been there 4 times before, you always had a feeling that we may never get another crack at winning another one again, but you always probably felt, well, surely eventually at some point down the line Leicester are going to win an FA Cup, or at least get another go at trying to win it, and which we obviously did, and we ended up doing it, whether it was by a toenail and the best things coming to football, VAR or whatever by ever means, we won it, and and again, it still pissed me off because Brendan did the exact same tactics that he did with every other press conference the season before, punching above our weight. Well, Jesus Christ, mate, they've just won the FA Cup. Way to try and suck a punch and take the wind out of their victory. It's like, oh yeah, well, we're punching above our weight and we've won silverware, and they're asking you, surely that can give you the confidence, because we had to play Chelsea, and had we won that game in the league, we would have potentially got top 4. You shut it down straight away. I mean, maybe we should have read the signs. I mean, we've all said in hindsight now we probably should have sacked him. We should have asked him to step down afterwards. But there we go. But yeah, it was fantastic, and I don't want to say that my birth is encouraging of the 100% FA Cup record, but all I'm saying is 1 FA Cup final, 1 win.
Moving on. I think that the thing was, I get insulted when people say that, and it's when you say on the telly, with no disrespect to Leicester, and that's not necessary, is it? Merson does that a lot. He drives me nuts with it. But for your own manager to say it, or as good as, well, Leicester really have no right to be it. Of course we have. We've got as much right as anybody. We've got a history as proud as anybody. Maybe not as many trophies, but
I don't think we knew at the time, though, that we'd reached the top of that mountain and we were about to slide down over the next few seasons. I mean, we take it to the following season, and as I've got there, 3 highlights: English Super Cup winners, shocking signings, but a European semi-final. I mean, I just want in my defence, because I always call it the English Super Cup. And everybody laughs at me, say, it's a community shield or the community. Right, let me just show you this, ladies and gentlefolk. This is Transfer Market, a very big website. As you can see there, English champions, FA Cup winners, English League Cup winners, and look there, 2 times English Super Cup winners. They call it that in Spain. It's English Super Cup for me. Dave?
Fine for me. I've always found the Community Shield or whatever it is now being a strange thing.
I get it. It was a charity shield because the money goes to charities and what have you. But it is you've got the champions of England playing the FA Cup winners, the biggest cup winners in England.
Well, that is when we won the second division. When we won the second division and beat Liverpool, that was a bit iffy, wasn't it?
Well, yes, but that was back in the day. That was back in the day. Yeah. Brad, Super Cup, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, only when you win it. It's Mickey Mouse Cup when it's the first thing that kicks off the season. I mean, look how well that worked out for Liverpool when they stumped Man City this season. That didn't do anything to Man City's range, did it? So, look, it's the English Super Cup with our name on it. Any other team's name on it. It's just some Mickey Mouse McDonald's Cup. I remember it being sponsored by McDonald's when it was a charity shield. That's when
we lost to Manchester United. It was
but you know what, mate? Now I'm thinking about it. Now we've cast our minds back. Maybe we're punching above our weight to be in it. I don't know. Every time we won a bit of silverware, that's what we were doing, weren't we? So,
there's only one bloke.
I know Amarty's not your favourite signing, but I've just
he's a very nice guy.
Shocking signings. I mean, that was the season. Oh, I mean, there's the two totally and utterly obvious ones there. We did actually sign. Hang on. When did we?
He was a bad one.
You can see the two there. I mean, it was awful, wasn't it? Those
I can't
signings.
see it, mate. Who was it?
Bertrand and Vestergaard.
You see, I don't get this Bertrand thing. I didn't see him much. He not played much. But the game I did see him in, I thought he did okay.
He did pre-season, but that one game.
Yeah, but he didn't play many more, did he?
Exactly.
No, but the thing is, while she could argue it's probably not Bertrand's fault because he was always injured, maybe that was the sign that we shouldn't have signed him because he's always fucking injured.
Well, I didn't say we should have signed him, but I'm saying he did
said that to me. They said, he's a hospital case.
Yeah. And Vestergaard, well, he played with Schmeichel in the international side. I thought Kasper might have said something.
But again,
elite.
Dave, do you not think he is not a bad defender necessarily, but and let's not say, well, he let in 9. We've had defenders that have let in 6 before this season. But let's say he was again not the player. And this is the funny thing. Rob Tanner said that he said to Bellend that you've bought a player here that doesn't fit in with your style of play. Yes, he does fit in with my style of play, blah, blah, blah. And never played him. And Rob Tanner went,
Well, I'm saying his centre-half decision-making for signings was pretty poor.
Yeah, no, you did. You did.
Guy that went to Celtic and never played for Leicester, apart from the odd cup game, I think. I don't get it. I don't get why he was involved in doing that when
we didn't have a proper director of transfers, did we? Because we were waiting for the guy, I think, to come from Southampton. But Brad, as Mike says there,
I'm Premier League. I am elite. I am proper elite. No. I am Dorinda.
Never need an excuse to play that.
She is Dorinda hero role.
You know that gets me when you say that. Stop it. But look, a European semi-final, 8th place finish. Don't get me wrong, it was good to get to the European semi-final. People knocked it because it was the first season of the conference, but a certain Jose Mourinho wanted to win that. You could see from his tears when he did do it, but it was plastering over the cracks, wasn't it, Brad?
Yeah, massively it was. And to be honest with you, like I said, if it wasn't for a run-in where we were playing the proverbial Brides Knickers teams like Norwich and Watford in that run-in, and a certain relegation fodder in Southampton, we would have finished 14th this season. It would have been not too dissimilar to our Champions League venture, except for the fact that we went Well, actually, we got relegated from the Europa League because we couldn't get out of a group with. That was a little bit embarrassing. Again, papered over the cracks by the fact that we ended up getting knocked out of a semi-final by Roma. That it papered over them cracks, and I think it is one of them because had we not had that little run at the end, Chris, like I said to you, I remember doing the god awful into the post match review after it was either Everton or Villa. They were both die games. No, it was the Villa game, wasn't it? 'Cause we drew 0-0, and it was so boring. We struggled to talk about anything for 30 minutes. We were slowing our sentences down just to make a minute out of the video, just so you could get monetization, mate. I believe at the point it was that dire of a game, and we were on about sacking Brendan back then. That maybe he's ran his course. I think the one thing this team severely lacked as well, and again, continuation of the same effect, domino effect, we never brought plausible competition to certain areas of that squad. You could argue, had he not fallen out, there was competition in the defensive roles. There was competition for the left and right back. There was competition for the goalkeeping position, and we had 659 central defenders, midfielders, so there's competition there, but there were certain players, and you get this at other clubs, where the question gets asked, if they know they're undroppable because there's no one landing a glove on them, what are they going to play and not be as, be lazy? They get dubbed as lazy, and obviously this year you'd make a really strong case for certain players. But I think that was the biggest flaw of that season as well. We were maybe blinded and thinking, oh no, it's all right. Rodgers has balanced the ship. He's going to be fine, and he's going to go back to top 5. We're going to go back to challenging for the FA Cup and whatnot, because we got blinded by a 6-game spell where we made it to a semi-final and we won 6 games and moved from 14th to 8th. And realistically, we only moved up that far because the teams ahead of us went on the beach, were on holiday, and had tougher games than us.
I think we had a lot of injuries, didn't we? And that got him out of jail.
Yeah, it's also funny how they've stopped since he's or players have recovered quicker since he's left as well. It's almost like we know where the problem's staring us in the face for 2.5 years.
It's a marvellous thing, Dave. Should he have gone at the end of that season?
Well, you say hindsight, yes, he should have, but I didn't say so at the time. So I think I was arguing with you two, probably start of this season, that I thought he should stay, and clearly I was wrong. But even at Christmas, I thought, let's just give him a chance after the World Cup, and we went on a run. 2 games on it. We won pretty well, Spurs and Villa. And I thought that was it again, turn it around. But another false dawn. He managed to screw that up from being so confident beating Tottenham. We could have had 5 or 6 that day easy. In fact, we should have had 5 anyway.
I was mad because I said, let's stop and give him a little bit extra. Mike says here, Bertrand ain't bad for a free signing. A free signing that we signed in 2021 that has played 4 times for us. And I think only one of those. I don't think any of those have been in the Premier League, to be honest with you. One friendly and a couple of cup games. So yeah, I thought he was going to be all right, and he wasn't.
Might still be next year.
He's out of contract in the summer. Wonder what we're going to decide about him, Brad. But look, let's have a look at this season that's just gone by. I put there, stick to FFP rules, you get punished. For whom the bell end tolls. Do you see what I did there? To show I know my literature, you see. And final day misery. It was, look, I don't want to go into this too much because we did it the other night on this season, but it was a slow death, wasn't it? It wasn't sudden, Dave. It was happening over 37 games. It wasn't the West Ham game. It wasn't Bournemouth failing to beat Everton. It was just us being shit and show pony of players.
Yeah, Brentford at home.
Yeah, I was just on a chatting on a West Ham site before I came on, and they were saying what a wonderful player Harvey Barnes is, blah blah blah, and I went, have you seen him all this season? I said, as a West Ham fan, you sit there and go, oh, isn't he good? Yes, when he wants to turn up. And it's the same with Maddison. It's the same with Tielemans, show ponies.
Well, Harvey Barnes just stands around with 3 opposition players around him, and he hasn't got a clue what to do. He never has. He's never picked up people at the back. He pretends he is, but he lets... I mean, Luke Thomas was exposed by him. And, you know, it's just terrible to have a guy like that in front of you. Great going forward, but cannot come back and help defend. And if he does try and help defend, you don't know what to do. Nobody seems to have told him what his job is. And that's under Smith as well.
Yeah. I mean, Brad, it was just... it was like the dying ant, wasn't it? It was just going on. I almost felt like, saying, look, for God's sake, stop fighting, Leicester. Just go down. Let's just get the R against our name, and let's just put ourselves out of this misery.
Yeah, the amount of times we shot ourselves in the foot this season, I'm surprised Leicester City haven't claimed disability benefits as an amputee, because they just did it so often this season. It was unreal, and again, you know, it's something now we've been able to reflect over these 9 seasons, because I don't maybe really Leicester fans haven't paid attention to. Where was the competition for Harvey Barnes' place? Where was the competition for Maddison's place? Where was the competition for Tielemans? Where was the competition? All right, maybe not Vardy, because we did bring in players just obsessed over him enough to keep doing it. But where was the competition for these key players that they need? They shouldn't, but prima donna. I can't say the fucking sentence. Prima donna. Fucking me. That was easy for me to say, apparently. Prima donna footballers need. I know. These prima donnas, I say it 3 times, it's like Beetlejuice, right? They need competition, apparently, to keep them emphasised and keep them energised and wanting to run on. It almost seemed like this, and the back end of last season was the main catalyst starting for it. And look, we've done this 1,000,001 times to the point that I literally am mentally checked out on the question of where did it go wrong this season? Everywhere. There you are. Short answer. Good night. Goodbye. See you later next week, sort of thing.
I agree totally. And where was the competition? Well, the competition was in the squad, but
Bellend
didn't want to pick them. He had his number of players that he liked, and he stuck by them. But look, we're down when we're not out. Look, you know, I've said, with the nicest will in the world, I love to see Derby get relegated. I was really happy that Coventry City didn't come up, but I would not want to see their clubs go out of business. I would not want to see any football club go out of business. Last time we got relegated, we nearly were going out of business, but we managed to find a benefactor. Interesting years under him as well. But we will be back. Don't know when, don't know where, but I'm sure we'll meet again some sunny day. It has been basically a fantastic 9 years. Dave, end on this one very quickly. Pick me your top 3 moments from the last 9 seasons. And I know you weren't expecting this, which is why it's interesting.
I think that night Chelsea drew with Tottenham has to be one. I think, obviously, the FA Cup win has to be another. And I think the togetherness of the football nation at that moment in time of the tragedy, I think they're the 3 that stick in my mind more than anything, and will forever.
Yeah, no, totally. Brad, same to you.
I'm going to go for pure Leicester moments, because I see what Dave's saying about the Tottenham-Chelsea one. But for me, seeing Wes Morgan get his hands on that trophy to lift above his head, because I've personally held that trophy, so I can gush that I've held the same things as many a Premier League captain has.
No name dropping there, was there, Brad?
No, me name dropping. No, It's almost like certain fans saying they've done interviews with Harry Redknapp that we know. I'd never do such a thing, Chris.
Paddy.
Yeah, so that moment was special. Watching, I know. In the end, it was the second goal by Albrighton, but yeah, Wes Morgan scoring that goal against Seville at home. You know that's a memory that will always live long in the memory from me. And I know people are probably going to say, surely the FA Cup, Brad. Yes, it was special. But I'm thinking one-off moments that I will never get a chance to see again, because I may see us win an FA Cup in my lifetime. You guys may still see us win an FA Cup again in your lifetime. For me, I still remember walking up the stairs, and I swear to you, I'll argue with anybody, I had the best view because I saw Fuchs' eyes when he made that no-look pass for Vardy for that record-breaking goal. It's ingrained into my brain. I can literally see Fuchs' face as he looked towards the fans as he did it, and I saw his face. Yeah, 11 heaven. That may get broke by a certain absolute freak of a machine called Haaland, but
yeah, no, I agree. I know what you're saying, but mine for me. I mean, it's good that there's so many to pick from. For me, it's got to be moments that I shared with my oldest. And the first one of those was the 5-3 Man United. Because it was Man United, had we done that against a Stoke or a Norwich, no disrespect to them, it wouldn't have meant the same. But the fact that was only our third game back, or whatever, fourth game back in the Premier League, and we'd gone down and then we came back, and being there. Second was, the quarterfinal of the Champions League, that music going, just edging out, crying with Bocelli when he sang Nessun Dorma. But the third one for me, believe it or not, was the English Super Cup, because I was there. I'd seen my team lift a trophy at the old Wembley. It was the League Cup. I wasn't there for the FA Cup, but to see my team win something at the new Wembley, having been there for the previous one against United and seeing us lose, it was just a brilliant day. So they're my three. But we will be back. I'm sure we will be back. And we'll be back tomorrow. Brad, we're doing the in or out, shake it all about. Dave, I'm sure your wife's home now, having been spent all night blowing.
Yeah, certainly is. I'll pass your regards on.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Look, she was at band practice, Brad. Don't think I'm being rude. I know she was at band practice. And she plays woodwind, doesn't she?
Clarinet.
Look, hey, we don't need to know what his missus calls his trumpet downstairs, all right? We need to keep that off the air at this time of night. Woodwind, yeah, all right. Woodwind, wink, wink, yeah, convenient.
Hang on a second. 2 hours, 12 minutes. Trumpet downstairs? What the hell was that?
It's better than being a bell end, isn't it?
Yes. But do pass my best on.
Yeah, will do, mate.
Brad, I'll see you as always tomorrow night at 8. You might as well say just move in. Guys, thank you so very much.
I'll catch you tomorrow night with a bit of luck. Take care, boys.
Guys. All the best. Cheers.
Yeah, be good. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Cheers. Oh, thanks to Brad, thanks to Dave, and thanks to me. And why not? We will be back. We'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. We're going to be looking at the squad, the whole Leicester City squad, from Ward and Everson through to Vardy and Inacho. Who would Brad keep and who would Brad sell? We're not going to loan. It's just keep them or get rid of them. And if the contract's expired, do we give them a new contract and keep them, or do we just let them go? So that is it. That's what we're going to be doing. Because tell you what, I don't think there'll be many that we will actually be saving. But there we go. Smiggle, thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed it. So that is 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Thank you to everybody who's watched. It's been a bit of a long one, that. You try and keep those two answers, to giving answers quickly. To keep it short is impossible, but I love them both for coming on. Thanks to Dave. Thanks to Brad. Thanks to everybody that was in the chat. Really do appreciate it. And thank you to anybody that's been listening on podcast, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Google, Podcast Addict, any of them. We are all over. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Like the video, because that does help get us about as well. Click that notification bell. We've got a lot of shows coming up. You don't want to miss them. And for $1.99, you can join and become a member. And we'll be having, like I say, member-only shows. That does sound rude. I need to come up with another phrase for that. Thank you to all our current members as well. There they all are. Not going to mention them all by name, but those are all our members. Just for $1.99 a month, you can join them. And we will see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. This has been LTID TV. I have been Chris. This is Arnie. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.